Senator Arlen Specter of Pennsylvania chairing. Just beginning now. Here's live coverage on C-SPAN 3.
With representations made that the Department of Defense had information about an al-Qaeda cell, including the identification of Mohammed Atta, substantially prior to 9/11, and that arrangements which had been made preliminarily to turn over the information to the FBI were not carried out because of concern by the Department of Defense that there might be a violation of the Posse Comitatus Act. That is a statute which was enacted shortly after the Civil War, which prevents the United States military from being engaged in law enforcement activities. If the Posse Comitatus Act precluded this information from being turned over by the Department of Defense to the FBI, then that is a matter which may require amendments to the Act, and that is a matter for the Judiciary Committee, squarely within our jurisdiction. The oversight of the FBI also is a matter squarely within the jurisdiction of the Judiciary Committee, so that the committee is concerned about what happened here. There have been some allegations of destruction of records. There has been a question raised as to whether the name Mohammed Atta is the Mohammed Atta, some saying that it's a common name, and the circumstances relating to the identification of the al-Qaeda cell, if in fact that happened, and alleged charts with the name of Mohammed Atta and a picture, all are matters all are questions to be resolved. For the record, I will now introduce without objection a letter which I wrote to Secretary of Defense Rumsfeld dated September 8th, year 2005. There have been extensive discussions between my staff and staff from the Department of Defense, and I was surprised to find that the Department of Defense has ordered 5 key witnesses not to testify, some in the military, some civilian working for the Department of Defense. That looks to me as if it may be obstruction of the committee's activity, something we will have to determine. There have been repeated requests for documents. They were delivered, I'm advised, last night at 5 o'clock, and they were in a secure room, Senate 407, some 500 pages, so there's not been any opportunity to review those documents for whatever light they may bear upon. There has been a contention raised by the Department of Defense that the Department is concerned about classified information. This committee is zealous in its protection of classified information, something that I've had personally extensive contact with in my capacity as chairman of the Senate Intelligence Committee in the 104th Congress. I conferred with Senator Pat Roberts, chairman of the Intelligence Committee, and our staffs have coordinated so that we will be advised of whatever the Senate Intelligence Committee knows, so that we have the benefit of the work of both staffs. As a precautionary matter, the committee has conferred with the Office of Legal Counsel on the issue of classified information, and I would, without objection, put into the record the advice from the Office of Legal Counsel, which takes the form of a memorandum from my general counsel, Carolyn Short, to me, specifying the advice which she had received orally from the Office of Legal Counsel. It was put in writing under their procedure, on a request by Senator Leahy and myself in writing, I will put a copy of the letter from Senator Leahy and me to the Office of Legal Counsel and put in to the record this memorandum from the Office of Legal Counsel. The essence of the situation on classified information is that the Office of Legal Counsel advised that I should state, and I now do, at the opening of this hearing, that we are not seeking the disclosure of classified information, and that I'm instructing the witnesses not to disclose any classified information. The legal counsel further advised that I should instruct the witnesses that if there is classified information that they wish to present to the committee, that they so inform the committee in order that at the conclusion of the public hearing, the committee can make the decision about whether to go into closed session. We have a representative from the Department of Defense here today, Mr. William Dugan, who's acting assistant to the Secretary of Defense for Intelligence Oversight, Department of Defense. And legal counsel has made the suggestion that the DOD representative in the audience at the hearing should feel free to raise objections to staff when appropriate. Well, I would go beyond that and say that if someone from the Department of Defense who is here has an objection, they can state it publicly prior to the time any risk arises of the disclosure of classified information, and the committee will take into account what is raised and make a determination, and we will err on the side of caution to be sure that there is no classified information. Our lead witness is Congressman CURT Weldon, who has key positions on the House of Representatives Armed Services Committee and on subcommittees dealing with intelligence. Congressman Weldon has made a very expansive study of this matter. I've known him personally for 25 years or more, since the days when he was mayor of Marcus Hook, and in the House of Representatives, having been elected there in 1986. And my knowledge of Congressman Weldon is to give me the utmost confidence in his thoroughness and his integrity and his objectivity. And on the issue of the classified information, in discussing this matter with Congressman Weldon, he assured me and the committee that classified information was not involved here. May the record show he's nodding, but in a few minutes he will be testifying about his knowledge of that and the reasons why he said, as reported to me in our discussions in advance of this hearing, that if it had been classified, there would have had to been a formal order of destruction. Again, the record show he's nodding, but he will testify to it. Well, that is a very, very brief statement of overview. Terrorism remains the #1 problem in the United States today. Notwithstanding all of the other problems we have, it is the #1 problem. And this country is still recoiling from the events of 9/11/2001, more than 4 years ago. And this country will be recoiling from those events for a very, very long time, and really indefinitely, and perhaps permanently. And if there is some change legislatively which needs to be undertaken in the Posse Comitatus Act, it is the duty of this committee to move ahead and to find out what went wrong here, if something in fact did go wrong. And it is my hope that we will have cooperation yet from the Department of Defense on these important matters. It is not a matter of attaching blame. It is a matter of correcting any errors so that we don't have a repetition of 9/11. And if there is intelligence information available, it ought to be shared and known to the authorities who can act on it, like the FBI and the CIA and the other intelligence agencies. This is practically a Delaware Valley affair at this moment. We've been joined by Senator Biden, whom I yield to now for any opening statement he may care to make.
Well, thank you, Mr. Chairman. Apologize for being a few minutes late. I'm here for two reasons. One, my high regard for the congressman. He's, over the years, in the last 9 months, shared information with me. Some of it seemed prescient, and it turns out that a number of the things he said have been, I was unaware of, have turned out to be the case. And I thought this morning we were going to be able to get to the bottom of some of this. I know, as you know better than I do, that the congressman is a loyal American first, but a very staunch Republican, has no political agenda here other than trying to figure out what we knew and didn't know, and why we didn't know it. And my staff indicates to me that the representatives from the Department of Defense had confirmed that an internal investigation identified on 5 Able Danger team members who claimed they'd either seen a picture of Otto or had seen his name in a chart prepared in '99 by the Able Danger team. And the defense investigation found these sources to be credible, but didn't uncover the chart itself. Defense officials have said that documents associated with the project have been destroyed in accordance with regulations regarding collection, dissemination, and destruction procedures for intelligence gathering on people inside the United States. And so I thought we were going to get a chance to clear some of that up this morning. For the life of me, I don't understand why, as I understand it, I stand corrected if I'm wrong, but I understand the witnesses we assumed we were going to get to hear from the Defense Department have been pulled. They may be or may not be in the room, but have been instructed that they cannot testify. I think that's a big mistake, and I am sorry that is the case. But I know the chairman, over the many years we've been friends and worked together, is seldom takes no for an answer when we have a right to hear certain things. And so I hope we will pursue that. But in the meantime, I'm anxious to hear. I'll be very blunt about it. I have heard. I've had the opportunity to travel with the congressman. He and I went to Iraq on Memorial Day with a number of his bipartisan group he led from the House. We had a chance to talk about a lot of this. But so I'm gonna stop. I have a few minutes left, but stop now because I am supposed to co-host the King of Jordan with my colleague Senator Lugar in the Foreign Relations Committee, and he's going to be talking to us about Iraq and a few other things. So I'm going to stay as long as I can, but hope we can get to the bottom of this, and hope we can prevail upon the Defense Department to change its mind. I've heard no good reason for the change, but I thank you and I welcome the Congressman.
Thank you very much, Senator Biden. Senator Leahy, the ranking member, is scheduled to speak shortly on the floor on the nomination of Judge Roberts for Chief Justice, or he would be here as he attends very faithfully. We've been joined by Senator Kyle, who chairs the Subcommittee on Terrorism. Senator Kyle, would you care to make any opening remarks?
Mr. Chairman, first of all, welcome to my colleague Kurt Weldon. We came into the House of Representatives together a few years ago, and I've appreciated the effort that he's put into trying to get to the bottom of this matter, and the fact that he's had a lot to do with bringing it to our attention, and to commend you for the effort here to also get to the bottom of it and hold these hearings. I know that we're going to have a lot of work to do in the future to bring all of the folks here, and in the meantime, subscribe to your notion that we need to do a little bit more work on the whole issue of posse comitatus so that we can address that as well. Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
Thank you very much, Senator Kyle. For the record, as to Congressman Weldon's background and work in this phase, it ought to be noted that he is Vice Chairman of the House Armed Services Committee and chairs the Tactical Air and Land Forces Subcommittee. He served 6 years as Chairman of the Military Research and Development Subcommittee, and he's also Vice Chairman of the Homeland Security Committee, so he's been very deeply involved in these issues. Our practice, Congressman Weldon, is to set the time at 5 minutes, even for members of the House or for senators. But knowing what you have to say, we're going to set the clock at 15 minutes, and to the extent you can testify about this very complex situation within that time would be fine. And if it takes a little longer, we want you to have an opportunity to develop the factual issues as fully as you can. Thank you for coming, and we look forward to your testimony.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman, and let me thank my friends Joe Biden and John Kyle for also showing up for this hearing. And I want to thank you for your willingness to listen to the facts of this story and attempt to get to the bottom of it. And I will be brief. I wrote my statement down, which I usually do, to stay in compliance with your time limitation, Mr. Chairman. I have a number of documents that I'll make available to the committee and will enter into the record. If the Chairman would like, I have a full written statement and a timeline, but I have some prepared comments I'd like to make today. I'd like to thank you and Ranking Member Leahy and the other members for scheduling this hearing today. Mr. Chairman, I am dismayed and frustrated, however, with the response of our government to information about the program Able Danger. The Defense Department has acknowledged that a program, Able Danger, existed and operated during the 1999-2000 time period, authorized by the Chairman of the Joint Chiefs of Staff and carried out by SOCOM with the help of the Army. DoD has stated publicly that 5 individuals, including an Army Lieutenant Colonel, recipient of the Bronze Star, who's in the room today, and a Navy Annapolis graduate, ship commander, have emphatically claimed that they worked on or ran Able Danger and identified Muhammad Atta and 3 other 9/11 terrorists over 1 year prior to the Trade Center attack. These 5 individuals have told me, your staff and others, that Able Danger amassed significant amounts of data, primarily from open sources, about al-Qaeda operations worldwide, and that this data continued to be used through 2001 in briefings prepared for the Chairman of the Joint Chiefs of Staff and others. These 2 brave military officers have risked their careers to come forward to simply tell the truth and to help America fully understand all that happened prior to 9/11 that had or might have had an impact on the most significant attack ever against our country and our citizens. These individuals have openly expressed their willingness to testify here today without subpoenas, but have been silenced by the Pentagon. They have been prevented from testifying, according to the Pentagon, due to concerns regarding classified information, in spite, Mr. Chairman, of the Pentagon's claims to members of the House Armed Services Committee 2 weeks ago that the bulk of the data used by Able Danger was open source, which was why DoD lawyers claimed that no certificates were needed to certify the destruction of massive amounts of data that had been collected. Mr. Chairman, you can't have it both ways. It's either classified or it's not. But what the Pentagon has done in the last 2 weeks is they've contradicted themselves. Another former DoD official told me and your staff, and was prepared to testify today, and he's in the room, that he worked on the data collection and analysis used to support Able Danger. He was prepared to state, as he told us, that he had an Able Danger chart with Muhammad Atta identified on his office wall at Andrews Air Force Base until DoD Investigative Services removed it. At risk to his current employment, he has told us and was prepared to testify under oath in direct rebuttal to the claims of the 9/11 commissioners that he was aware of the purchase of Muhammad Atta's photograph from a California contractor, not from U.S. legal identity documents. He was prepared to discuss the extensive amount of data collected and analyzed about al-Qaeda.
Whom are you referring to now, Congressman Weldon?
Talking about J.D., right here, J.D. Smith, in the room. He was prepared to discuss the extensive amount of data collected and analyzed about al-Qaeda, underscoring the fact that Able Danger was never about one chart or one photograph, but rather was and is about massive data collected and assembled against what Madeleine Albright declared to be in 1999 an international terrorist organization. He too has been silenced. Another former DoD official will testify today that he was ordered to destroy up to 2.5 terabytes of data. Now, I don't know what a terabyte of data is, so we contacted the Library of Congress. It's equal to 1/4 of all the entire written collection that the Library of Congress maintains. This information was amassed through Able Danger that could still be useful today. He will name the individual who ordered him to destroy that data and will state for the record that the customer for that data, General Lambert of SOCOM, was never consulted about that destruction and expressed his outrage upon learning that the destruction had taken place. an FBI employee that I identified and has met with your committee staff and was prepared to testify today that she arranged 3 meetings with the FBI Washington field office in September of 2000 for the specific purpose of transferring al-Qaeda Brooklyn cell Able Danger information to the FBI for their use. In each instance, she has stated that meetings were canceled at the last minute by DoD officials. She has not been allowed to testify publicly today. The 9/11 Commission was created by Congress with my full support. I have publicly championed many of their recommendations. On 4 separate occasions, I attempted to brief the Commission on specifics related to intelligence problems, lack of intelligence collaboration, the NOAA concept, the National Operations Analysis Hub that I had pursued in '99 and 2000, and the work of the LEWA and Able Danger. Except for one 5-minute telephone call with Tom Kane, I was unable to meet with 9/11 commissioners and/or staff. In fact, I had my Chief of Staff hand-deliver questions to be asked of George Tenet and others to the Commission on March the 24th of 2004, which I will enter into the record. They were never used and the questions were never asked. It was, in fact, a member of the 9/11 Commission who encouraged me to pursue the Able Danger story after I briefed him on June 29th of 2005. He informed me that the 9/11 Commission staff had never briefed Commission members on Able Danger. He said that the facts had to be brought out. When the 9/11 Commission first responded to questions about Able Danger, they changed their story and spin 3 times in 3 days. This is not what Congress intended. All of the people involved with Able Danger should have been interviewed by the 9/11 Commission. Because Able Danger ceased to formally exist before the administration came into office, I understand why there might have been a lack of knowledge about the program and its operations. In fact, when I first met with Steve Cambone, and I'm the one that introduced him to Tony Schaefer, who's here today, he told me that he was at a significant disadvantage, that I knew more about Able Danger than he did. But that is not an excuse to not pursue the complete story of Able Danger. In fact, Mr. Chairman, DoD never conducted an actual investigation. And this came up in our Armed Services meeting 2 weeks ago. No oaths were given, no subpoenas were issued, rather an informal inquiry was initiated. A thorough review of Able Danger, its operations, and data collected and analyzed, and recommendations for data transfer to other agencies could have and should have been completed by more than 1 member of Congress using 1 staffer. Instead, over the past 3 months, I have witnessed denial, deception, threats to DoD employees, character assassination, and now silence. This is not what our constituents want. It is unacceptable to the families and friends of the victims of 9/11 and flies in the face of every ideal upon which this country was founded. Over the past 6 weeks, some have used the Able Danger story to make unfair public allegations, to question the intentions or character of 9/11 commissioners, or to advance conspiracy theories. I have done none of this. When I learned details of Able Danger in June, I talked to 9/11 commissioners personally and staff. I delivered a comprehensive floor speech on June 27th of 2005 and methodically briefed the House chairs of Armed Services, Intelligence, Homeland Security, and Justice Appropriations. This story only became public even though significant portions were first reported in a Heritage Foundation speech that I gave, still available online, on May 23, 2002, and a Computer World magazine story that ran on January 28, 2003, when Government Security News ran a story on August the 1st of 2005, followed by a front-page story in the New York Times on August the 2nd of 2005. My goal now, Mr. Chairman, is the same as it was then: the full and complete truth for the American people about the run-up to 9/11. Many Americans lost family and friends on 9/11. Michael Horrocks was a neighbor of mine in Pennsylvania, a former Navy pilot, graduate of Westchester, like myself. He was at the controls of one of the planes on 9/11. He left behind a wife and 2 kids. We built a playground in his honor at his kid's school. Ray Downey was a personal friend. As a New York deputy fire officer, he took me through the garage of the Trade Center towers in 1993, the first time bin Laden hit us. We worked together. In fact, he gave me the idea for the creation of the Gilmore Commission, which I authored and added to the Defense Authorization Bill in 1997. On September 11, 2001, he was the New York City Fire Department Chief of All Rescue. The 343 firefighters, including Ray, who were all killed, were under Ray's command, as he led the largest and most successful rescue effort in the history of mankind. I promised Michael's wife and kids, and Ray's wife and kids and grandkids, that we would not stop until the day that we had learned all the facts about 9/11. Unfortunately, Mr. Chairman, that day has not yet arrived. We must do better.
Thank you
Chairman,
very
I
much.
have significant material that I would put into the record, data that I provided to the 9/11 Commission, questions I gave them. I have packets that I gave them. I have material on the NOAA process. I can enter it all into the record. It's basically your call.
Without objection, all of those matters, documents will be made a part of the record. Senator Biden, you've said you have other commitments. Can you wait for 5 minutes for the first round, or I'd be glad to yield to you if... No, I'd be glad to.
But I'd like to suggest, since the questions I had prepared, my staff and I had prepared, quite frankly, weren't directed to the chairman, or to Congressman Weldon, but to others who we thought were going to be testifying. I'd like to submit for the record, just so it's in the record, what I want to know from these other witnesses. And if that,
Without objection, you may do so.
and there's a number of theories that are bouncing around, Kurt, about why would, first of all, timeline here. Able Danger was established in September '99, correct?
It was the 98, 99 time frame, but officially 99.
All right. When did it go out of business?
As best we can tell, it ended in 2000, yet there was a briefing given to the chairman of the Joint Chiefs of Staff, a 3-hour briefing in January of 2001 using material. Now, even though they've claimed they destroyed all the material, there obviously had to be material for the chairman of the Joint Chiefs to be briefed, and I just learned that Steve Cambone also was involved in a briefing with the head of the DIA in March of 2001. I was not aware of that information until last week. One of your witnesses would have explained that here today.
Well, that's what I was hoping we'd be able to establish, is that Lieutenant Colonel Schaefer, who I understand is in the audience today, who's under Rumsfeld's gag order, attempted to give this information as well to the FBI in 2001?
2000, September 2000, he arranged 3 meetings, and the FBI person who was going to testify but was silenced was going to state that she knew the purpose of the meetings.
And was anyone prepared to testify to the fact that there was a 3-hour briefing for General Shelton?
Yes, Tony Schaefer would have done that.
And for the record, obviously he was the chairman of the Joint Chiefs at the time, right?
Yes.
And then the March 2001 meeting, that briefing for Undersecretary of Defense for Intelligence, Steve Cambone, there was someone prepared to confirm that today as well?
My understanding is Mr. Cambone was not in his current position at that time. He was a special assistant to Secretary Rumsfeld. And the purpose of the brief, my understanding, it was not specifically for Able Danger. It was a briefing on another classified program, but Able Danger came up. It was discussed, and it was discussed by a lawyer who you had wanted to testify named Richard Schifrin, by the head of Naval Intelligence, Admiral Wilson, and I believe it was a third person in the room. Is that it? Just the two. Admiral Wilson, Richard Schifrin, Steve Cambone, and Able Danger was discussed in March of 2001 at that meeting.
My next question, why was Able Danger shut down?
There were a combination of reasons. They had done a profile of Chinese proliferation in 1999 that John Hamre had asked for. I was aware of that presentation, and because it was massive data mine that had not yet been vetted, a couple of very sensitive names surfaced because they had been affiliated with Stanford University, where many of the students that were doing this very, very specific research, very sensitive to our country's security, were located. And I think partly because of that, there was a wave of controversy. In fact, in the House, the son of Congressman Sam Johnson, was working for the Raytheon Corporation. He went to his father and said, "Dad, they're destroying data." Sam went to Dan Burton, who was chairman of the Government Operations Committee, and Dan Burton subpoenaed documents that had been used in compiling the Chinese proliferation information. As a result of that, tremendous pressure was placed on the Army, because this was a prototype operation, and they shut down the Able Danger operation. General Schumacher was so enamored with this capability that he stood up a separate operation in Garland, Texas, at a Raytheon facility to try to duplicate what had been done at the Lewa in the Army. And that lasted for about a year, maybe slightly longer than a year. So the Special Forces Command understood the significance of this data. And as a result of the Chinese proliferation situation, I'm convinced Able Danger was shut down.
Is there any thing to the sort of, when you get into this, the sort of buzz that it was shut down because Able Danger exceeded its authority and was dealing with targeting Americans, that the Defense Department and others were concerned would cause some a real brouhaha. There was even some press accounts that the now Secretary of State came up on a list as being a suspect somehow, or something ridiculous. I mean, what part did that play in? And that's
it was a significant part. In fact,
Senator Biden, if you need a little more time, take it. You won't be here for a second round, so if you need a little more time, proceed.